Olivia Hartley checked into the Monarch Grand Hotel with her charming boyfriend, Daniel Monroe. By morning, she was dead, and he had vanished without a trace. What began as a luxury weekend getaway quickly spiraled into a nationwide manhunt, revealing a web of lies, a hidden double life, and a murder as cold as it was calculated. On a warm Saturday evening in early September, the Monarch Grand Hotel was buzzing with its usual blend of luxury and discretion. Nestled in the heart of downtown Chicago, the towering glass structure catered only to the elite, executives, and those wanting privacy above all else. At 6:32 p.m., a black luxury sedan pulled up to the front entrance. Hotel staff watched as a glamorous woman stepped out, her heels clicking confidently on the polished marble driveway. Olivia Hartley had arrived. Known among social circles as a sought-after event planner, Olivia was the epitome of style and sophistication. She was in her late 30s, impeccably dressed, and carried herself with the grace of someone used to attention. But what caught the concierge's eye wasn't Olivia, it was the man trailing behind her. Daniel Monroe was quieter, more reserved. In contrast to Olivia's bold energy, he seemed subdued, almost cautious. Tall and clean-cut, he didn't appear out of place at a five-star hotel, but there was something in his demeanor, a hesitation, a flicker of discomfort that didn't go unnoticed. Still, they smiled, exchanged pleasantries, and checked in. Under Olivia's name, the suite they had booked was the most exclusive one in the hotel, the penthouse, complete with panoramic skyline views, a private terrace, and personalized service. It was often reserved months in advance. They carried minimal luggage, just 2 overnight bags and a bottle of vintage champagne in a velvet wine bag. Staff escorted them up to the suite. There were no visible signs of distress or disagreement. On the contrary, the couple appeared affectionate. Surveillance cameras showed Olivia wrapping her arm around Daniel as they stepped into the elevator. The door closed behind them, and for several hours, it was as if they disappeared from the world. That night, the suite remained quiet. There were no calls to the front desk, no requests for additional towels or late-night room service. Neighbors in the adjacent suites didn't report any noise or disturbance. For a luxury hotel accustomed to catering to demanding guests, a silent night was unusual but not alarming. Housekeeping staff reported seeing the "Do Not Disturb" sign hanging on the suite's door the next morning, so they moved on without knocking. At 10:40 a.m. the following day, a scheduled room service delivery went unanswered. After 3 unanswered knocks and a 5-minute wait, the staff entered the suite using a master key. The moment the door opened, everything changed. The curtains were half drawn, the scent of perfume still faint in the air. Olivia was found lying motionless near the bathroom door. A silk robe was loosely draped around her, one slipper on, the other missing. Her phone was shattered nearby, as if it had been dropped or thrown. A champagne glass stood on the bedside table, untouched. The room, while not chaotic, showed subtle signs of disarray. A towel crumpled in the hallway, a pair of men's shoes by the balcony door, and Olivia's handbag turned slightly inside out on the floor. Daniel Monroe was gone. Hotel security was alerted immediately. Within 30 minutes, Chicago police had sealed off the suite, and whispers began to ripple through the hotel lobby. What had started as a picture-perfect weekend getaway had taken a sudden and horrifying turn. Detectives arrived at the Monarch Grand within the hour, greeted by a crime scene that was as perplexing as it was tragic. Olivia Hartley's lifeless body had already been examined by first responders. No signs of visible trauma could explain her sudden death, yet something about the setting felt wrong. Her expression was frozen in fear, her fingernails slightly chipped as if she'd clawed at something. The position of her body suggested she had collapsed abruptly, but from what no one knew. The hotel suite didn't show signs of forced entry. No broken locks, no shattered glass, and nothing appeared to have been stolen. Her purse still contained her credit cards, ID, and several $100s in cash. Her diamond bracelet was still clasped around her wrist. That quickly ruled out robbery as a possible motive. Detectives began asking questions. Who was she with? Where was he now? Why hadn't he stayed behind to call for help? Hotel staff provided keycard logs and surveillance footage. Daniel Monroe had left the building at precisely 3:08 a.m., almost 7 hours before Olivia's body was discovered. The cameras captured him stepping into the service elevator, dressed in different clothes than what he had worn earlier that evening. Gone was the dress shirt and tailored trousers. He now wore a dark hoodie, jeans, and a baseball cap pulled low over his face. He didn't stop to check out at the desk or speak to any staff. He simply walked out, blending into the quiet night. He paid the valet in cash and drove away in the same black sedan they had arrived in. Investigators quickly ran background checks. What they found raised more questions than answers. Daniel Monroe was not who he claimed to be, though he had introduced himself as a financial consultant. Public records revealed no business by that name registered under him. In fact, his professional license had been revoked nearly 2 years earlier due to allegations of fraud. Further digging uncovered that Daniel was married with 2 children in another state. He had 2 active lawsuits and a long list of debts, under multiple aliases. He had managed to hide this lie from Olivia completely. Her friends were stunned. They described Daniel as charming, polite, and soft-spoken. Olivia had met him at a networking event nearly a year earlier. Their relationship had moved slowly, with Daniel insisting on privacy and discretion. Now, it appeared that caution had a purpose. It allowed him to keep his secrets buried. There were whispers among Olivia's close circle that she had begun to suspect something. Just a week before the hotel stay, she had cancelled a weekend trip abruptly and appeared distracted at work. She told a friend that she was going to have a serious conversation with Daniel during their hotel weekend. She never got the chance. A nationwide alert was issued for Daniel Monroe. His car was added to police databases and his name flagged on all airline and train ticket systems. Yet days passed without a single credible sighting. It was as though he had vanished into thin air. The man who had spent a year building Olivia's trust had erased himself in a matter of hours, leaving only silence and suspicion behind. Inside the penthouse suite, a quiet but meticulous investigation was underway. Forensic teams arrived with specialized equipment, determined to uncover the truth hidden in the stillness of the room. Though the scene lacked obvious signs of violence, subtle inconsistencies hinted at something darker. The first discovery came from the bathroom, where a towel was found damp and twisted on the tile floor. It seemed out of place, almost as if it had been used in a struggle or to clean something quickly. Near the bedside, technicians recovered a nearly empty champagne glass. Initially dismissed as irrelevant, the glass became critical after toxicology. Tests on Olivia's body revealed a sedative in her system. The drug, commonly used to treat insomnia, was present in a dosage high enough to impair movement and awareness. Investigators suspected it had been slipped into her drink sometime that night. The question was when and by whom. Searching for more answers, analysts examined the digital data available. Olivia's smartwatch, still on her wrist when she was found, provided a chilling timeline. At 2:11 a.m., her heart rate spiked dramatically, suggesting intense physical or emotional stress. Moments later, it flatlined. Investigators believed this was the exact window in which the fatal act occurred. Her death was not instantaneous. It was sudden but deliberate. A second glass, presumably used by Daniel, was missing. It wasn't in the suite, nor had it been cleared by staff. That detail, while small, was suspicious. Combined with the missing slipper, altered clothes, and his early morning departure, it painted the picture of a man who had time to clean up and leave quietly. That theory gained more weight when a torn receipt was found in the trash bin under the sink. It was from a nearby 24-hour convenience store, time-stamped at 2:45 a.m., just 34 minutes after Olivia's heart rate flatlined. Store security footage confirmed Daniel had entered alone, wearing the hoodie and baseball cap seen on hotel cameras. He purchased bleach, cleaning wipes, and a cheap disposable razor. Investigators believed he used these to wipe down any potential DNA and remove any blood evidence that might have been left behind. Though there was no visible blood at the scene, luminol testing revealed faint smears near the bathroom floor, far too subtle to be noticed by the naked eye, but enough to raise further suspicion. An autopsy confirmed Olivia had died from asphyxiation. The red mark on her neck had been caused by soft, sustained pressure, likely from a towel or pillow. This wasn't a violent attack. It was quiet, controlled, and terrifyingly calculated. The sedative had likely made her too weak to fight back. Every detail suggested Daniel had planned this carefully. It wasn't a spontaneous argument gone wrong. It was a methodical act, carried out in the middle of the night, followed by a escape. Yet despite the evidence stacking against him, he remained missing. No credit card activity, no mobile pings, no contacts with friends or family. Investigators were chasing a ghost, a man who had seemingly vanished into the darkness, just hours after taking a life. Nearly 3 weeks had passed since Daniel Monroe vanished into the early morning shadows of downtown Chicago. Investigators had exhausted most of their initial leads. His vehicle had been found abandoned in a long-term parking lot outside the city. Inside, detectives discovered traces of bleach on the seats and door handles, suggesting he had attempted to eliminate evidence before abandoning the car. There were no fingerprints on the steering wheel or door locks, which indicated he had wiped it down thoroughly. No personal items were left behind, not even a receipt, a phone charger, or a scrap of paper. It was as if he had prepared for this disappearance long before the murder took place. Then came a break, small but significant. A burner phone Daniel had likely purchased during his escape was used once to access a rideshare app in Arizona. The app's data led police to a rest stop camera along a quiet highway near Kingman. There, a blurred image captured a man resembling Daniel, wearing a hat and sunglasses, stepping out of a white SUV. The car was traced to a woman who had rented it days earlier, but she told police she had never driven that far. Investigators believed Daniel had either stolen the vehicle or convinced someone to lend it to him under false pretenses. This new lead led authorities to a secluded Airbnb cabin near the edge of the Mojave Desert. The reservation had been made under an alias linked to one of Daniel's known fake identities. Surveillance in the area was minimal, and the host had no interaction with the guest. When police arrived, they found the cabin locked from the inside. After surrounding the property, they called out but received no response. Minutes later, Daniel stepped out calmly, hands raised. His appearance had changed. His hair was shaved close, and he had lost weight. He had been living in complete isolation, eating canned food and using cash only. Inside the cabin, police found a handwritten journal filled with cryptic entries and erratic notes. Some pages were filled with financial calculations, others with what seemed like fragments of letters never sent. There was no confession, no mention of Olivia, but there were repeated references to time running out and no way back. Daniel offered no resistance during the arrest. At the station, he barely spoke. He refused to answer most questions, and showed no visible emotion. When asked about Olivia, he remained silent. His behavior was cold and controlled, the same way he had behaved in the days leading up to the murder. The trial was set quickly due to the public interest in the case. Prosecutors built a damning narrative. Daniel Monroe had constructed a fake identity, seduced a successful woman, and murdered her when he feared exposure. They presented a mountain of evidence: security footage, drug toxicology forensics from the hotel, and GPS data from the burner phone. The defense attempted to claim that death was accidental, suggesting Olivia may have overdosed and Daniel panicked. But the evidence was too specific, too methodical. The sedative, the strangulation, the attempted cover-up, none of it pointed to panic. It pointed to planning, to a man who had everything to lose and chose murder as his way out. The courtroom was packed on the day of the verdict. After nearly 2 weeks of testimony, forensic evidence, and emotional statements from Olivia Hartley's family, the jury returned with a unanimous decision: guilty of second-degree murder. Daniel Monroe showed no visible reaction as the sentence was read: 38 years in prison without the possibility of parole. He simply stared straight ahead, jaw clenched, unmoved by the weight of the judgment. For many watching, his silence felt like an extension of the crime itself, cold, detached, and unforgiving. Olivia's family, seated in the front row, wept quietly. Her mother held onto a photo of her daughter, taken just months before the murder. In it, Olivia smiled with her usual grace and confidence, full of life and promise. Her father, usually composed, broke down when reading a statement to the court. He spoke of a daughter who had spent her life bringing joy to others, organizing weddings and celebrations, never imagining that her own life would end in such a dark and calculated way. Despite the conviction, there were lingering questions that the trial couldn't answer. Why did Daniel kill her? Was it solely to prevent her from discovering the truth about his past? Or was there something deeper, some psychological crack that had gone unnoticed? Prosecutors had painted him as a manipulator, a man who thrived on deception and control, but no one could say for sure what his true motive was. Daniel himself never testified. He never provided a reason, a defense, or a hint of remorse. On the weeks following the trial, the story continued to grip the public. News outlets revisited every detail: the glamorous penthouse suite, the sedative in the glass, the midnight escape, and the eerie quiet of the desert cabin. True crime forums and podcasts speculated about what might have happened behind the closed doors of the hotel room that night. Some believed Olivia had confronted him, and that the murder was a desperate act to silence her. Others thought it was premeditated from the start, a calculated plan carried out by a man who had nothing left to lose. The Monarch Grand Hotel quietly closed off the penthouse suite. Though freshly renovated and redecorated, guests still avoided it. Staff spoke about how the air in that room felt heavy, like a presence lingered. It became a silent symbol of how quickly beauty and luxury could be shattered by violence. Olivia's friends and loved ones, justice provided only partial closure. They continued to grapple with the reality that someone so full of life could be taken in such a senseless way. Her social media profiles, still visible, became memorials. People posted messages on her birthday, on holidays, on the anniversary of her death, trying to hold on to pieces of her memory. Daniel Monroe began his prison sentence in a maximum security facility. He remained quiet, isolated, and unresponsive to interview requests. In the end, the man who had spent years lying about who he was disappeared into the system as silently as he had fled that hotel suite. But the shadow of what he did would linger far beyond the walls that now held him.